what we're going to do now is I want to introduce you to a very special lady. She's someone I saw a huge potential in a long time ago. In fact, this lady used to work for me back in another lifetime called Wildly Wealthy Women. And she was fresh in from Australia. I grabbed her fresh out of London with, you know, all of the new ideas about how to do stuff and whatever else. And then she moved across to me when I finished that, and she stayed with me for a bit. And then she had to go and have babies, you see, and we talked about things and we thought, well, you know, she's got so much potential. She's really being wasted with me. I was really hindering where she was at and her growth and everything else, because her speciality is technology. Her speciality is the internet and technology and graphics design and artistic stuff and writing and all of these wonderful things that really I was a hindrance to her. So we used the excuse, I suppose, really, of the baby and whatever else for her to go off on her own. And she has done amazing things. She's so incredible. She's won so many awards right around Australia for, you know, Business Women of the Year and all sorts of things, which she'll tell you about shortly. And her latest little baby is this. It's a new book called No Kidding. And it's about all the technology and things that, you know, our kids are growing up with, and really, you know, that can be really, really helpful to us. And I rang her up the other day when I was having this. I said, you know what? I'd really like you to come along and speak at this event about technology and how we can use it from a real estate investment perspective. I said, see what you can do and you know, pick out the bits of the book that really apply to us in our industry. So she's going to come along and have a talk to us now. Let's welcome her to the stage, Miss Yvette Adams. Give her a round of applause. Hey, Yvette.
Hello, Dipna.
It's good to be sharing the stage with you, isn't it?
It's kind of weird. I used to be one of you guys.
Your wonderful book, I'm going to be giving them away all day. I've got a whole stack of these books to give away tomorrow, so we'll keep this one up here, but I'll let you carry on. Here's your clicker. I'm just going to have to change that for you. Here's your clicker, and I'll let you go take over.
Thank you. Hello. I'm so glad you all came back and didn't decide to go and sit around the pool at 4 o'clock on a Saturday afternoon full of cupcakes. But technology is a really fun topic. Who here likes technology? Yay, I'm in the right room. Even if you don't, it's my goal to make you leave going, actually, I might give this technology thing a crack. It actually is pretty fun. There we go. So I've got this book called No Kidding, and when Dipna gave me my little brief, I thought I'll turn that into how technology can help you as real estate investors. Okay, so a little bit about me. Who knows where that is? Recognise that one? New Zealand, which city? Yes, windy Wellington. They say you can't beat Wellington on a good day. Problem is, there's not that many good days. I didn't take that photo. It is not photoshopped. It can look that amazing. And I grew up there until I was 21. Left home at 17. Didn't talk to the parents. Moved in with the first boy who asked me. Silly. Went straight to work. Never went to university. Had money to put that roof over my head. And ended up working alongside a guy called Sir Edmund Hillary. You might have heard of him. I used to do a lot of his press and public relations. I found myself running the National Sports Journalism Awards by the time I was just 18. And so here was me between the ages of 18 and 21, stashing the cash and getting great work experience and hanging out with Sir Edmund. He was actually a grumpy old bugger sometimes. And then by the time I was 21, I had $10,000 in the bank, and most of my friends were coming out of uni with $30,000 negative, because at that time you could just ring a 1-800 number and get another $10,000 put in your bank account on a student loan. So, age 21, my friends are all graduating, and I head off to the bright lights and big city of London. And I use that as a base for the next 7 years with my partner Steve, who's here today, who doesn't see me speak very often, so it's kind of cool to have him here as well for the weekend. I worked in mainly journalism, media, PR, and then I was age 26 and fell pregnant on the pill. Yes, it does happen. And I had my baby across the bridge from Big Ben, so when you're going crazy in labour, I heard those chimes of that Big Ben. And I must like living their big things, because I found myself 10 years ago tomorrow, it is, living down the road from the Big Pineapple. So my son was born near Big Ben, my daughter near Big Pineapple, and everyone keeps joking, where's the next one, the Big Banana, etc. There won't be any more though, we're all done. So it was around this time, 6 weeks into being here, so tomorrow, 10 years to the day that we arrived in Australia. So we're going to have a big party next week. We love living in Australia and we're very grateful to live here. And I was very, very lucky to meet Dipna. Now, I have to stop and talk about her for a moment, because here she is saying I was a hindrance to her. No, I don't think so. She taught me a lot of what I know, and I wouldn't be the person I am today without her. So thank you, Dipna. She taught me about real estate. She taught me about business, and she just gave me a lot of confidence in what I was doing. And you know, has anyone arrived to a new country with literally no contacts? You know, yeah? It's hard yakka, right? We arrived with 2 backpacks, baby, guitar, no contacts. You're starting from scratch. And I was pretty lucky to meet someone like Dipna as one of the first people I met, wasn't I? Very lucky. And County was one of my dear friends, and Brian and the family now too, to this day. So, remember she told you I was working for her, and then I had to confess, I'm going to have another baby, sorry, I have to leave you for a bit. This is where I started hanging out, my study nook of my home. And that was my business, the Creative Collective, A3 sign, print that out, put it on the wall, we'll call that a business. And I had a 3-year-old running around, little Tara Rio, who's now 10. He was a feisty little 3-year-old, Dipna would remember him being like that. And then I had this beautiful baby girl. 7 weeks in, I decided to start a business. Call me crazy. But very quickly, I worked out, if I wanted to make this thing work, I had to leverage my time. I bet you Dipna has talked about leveraging your time. Has she? Yes? Yep. Big fan of it myself. So very quickly, I worked out, what am I good at? What am I not good at? What do I love doing? What do I hate doing? How am I going to do all this stuff around these 2 babies? Because I quite like the idea of being able to be a mum to them and do some work and kind of, hang out with them when I want to as well. The answer? Technology. So some people say you can't use technology to replace some other elements of life. To some degree, that's true. But there's a few ones that I think you really can. So let's just start with one, networking, meeting the right people. People said to me, you can't network without going and physically meeting people. And I actually physically couldn't do that. Because here I was around breakfast time with 2 crazy kids, couldn't go to the breakfast functions, couldn't go to the lunch functions, could have gone out to the nighttime functions, sometimes tried, but geez, I was tired, I was no good to anybody. So I used a thing called LinkedIn a lot to connect with people and make business relationships. Who here uses LinkedIn? I love it. It's one of my favourite business tools. I use it a hell of a lot. In fact, I use it so much the CEO of LinkedIn rang me up one day, out of the blue. He's like, hello, here's my PA going, this guy says he's the CEO of LinkedIn. And I'm like, sure he is. And it was Cliff Rosenberg. And I said, he just was chatting to me. How's business, Yvette? How many people have you got working for you now? What are you focused on? And I just answered all the questions. And then in the end, I said, was there any particular reason you were calling me today, Cliff? He said, no, you've just come up on our radar. And I thought, whoa, I really am using LinkedIn a lot. So then I started asking him the same stuff. And actually, he gave me the best business advice I had all last year. I said to him, opportunist and all, because at the time, we actually offer LinkedIn training. And I said, who's taking your LinkedIn training, Cliff? And he said, well, we could do that, Yvette, but we have 3 main streams of income. And you would also know through Dipna, multiple streams of income, very good. And he said, so we could offer training, but we choose to stick with the 3 we've got because, Yvette, it's all about, and it's one word, focus. And that is such simple advice, isn't it? But there's so many things you can do with investing, with technology, with business, with, there's so many opportunities in this world. We're just in this generation of opportunities and technology that enables it. But what you've got to have is focus, don't you? And if you can, you're the one that's going to succeed. So today, the Creative Collective has grown a whole lot, and I'll get into the technology part, but I just wanted to give you some context about why I know a few things about this stuff. I actually split the business in 2 started this year. It was getting too big. I had a services division and a training division. There's about 30 contractors that work full-time on the Creative Collective side and about 5 trainers on the Training Collective side. So it's a sister company, very clearly, different colour, same sort of name. And I have a 3rd business as well, because I'm crazy, because I have so much spare time. And it's called awardshub.com, and you can go on there and you can find business awards to enter, and we help you enter them into them. And we've had a lot of success with our clients around the world. We could be doing an air conditioning company from Dubai one day, and a real estate agent from Tasmania the next. It's really rewarding. You find out about all these interesting industries, prepare a great submission and send them off. So I mentioned I've won a few awards, and one last year was quite a big one. That was actually IT Woman of the Year for Australia, which is pretty amazing for a girl who didn't go to university, right? Last year was pretty cool. I got to go to Silicon Valley as well with Commonwealth Bank. They picked 10 women who are doing amazing things in IT. And I got to go to Facebook and I got to go to LinkedIn. LinkedIn had better offices than Facebook, I thought, but Facebook had free ice cream. Where else did I go? I went to IDEO, I went to IBM, lots of amazing companies. And to summarize it, because this is not what my talk's about, they're smart-ass teams building kick-ass products in a big-ass market. That's Silicon Valley. Okay, so, when you win these awards and stuff, you can just go on stage, you can shake the hand and get the trophy, get the pick, and go, been there, done that. That's very nice. But I kind of went, I want a bit more meaning to it all than that. What can I do that's going to make a difference? What can I do with this knowledge? What can I do with this platform? And that's a tip as well with awards. Yes, you can win them. The red carpet doesn't just roll out and the limo rocks up and life changes. You still have to orchestrate your own opportunities, and I'm a big fan of that. That's what I've done all my life. Nothing's been handed to me on a plate. I've met cool people, but I've also made stuff happen. So, when you're a doctor, I've seen this happen at barbecues, and people come up to you at a barbecue and they go, oh, my arm, I just wonder if you could just have a look. It's a bit, just because you're a doctor, you're supposed to be able to give them a consult right there and then. Well, people do that to me with technology. Hey, could you just look at this app? Well, my phone's not really working. Would you mind if you have a look? And you're kind of like, oh, my God. So I thought, I've just got to download my brain in a book. So then next time I get asked about what technology do you use and what do you do with your kids on this, I can go check out the book. So that's why I made it. And last week, I actually was on Today's Show. That was me last week, hanging out with Carl Stefanovic, that my brother reckons he has a man crush on, who I threatened lots of times, I'm going to tell Carl that you've got a man crush. I'll do it. So that was great to kind of get the word out there to more people about this whole technology thing. And what was really cool about this piece is they actually went and interviewed kids beforehand, because my book's called No Kidding, Why Our Kids Know More About Technology Than Us and What We Can Do About It. Who here thinks their kids know more about technology than them? Yep. Cool. So when I put that title out there, it was a little bit of a limb, right? Some people were like, oh, do you really reckon, or do you just think they do? And I'm like, I really reckon they do, and I'm going to go out there with that. So these guys went and filmed kids. Did anyone happen to see that last week? It's first day of school holidays. You might have been kicking back with the kids. And all the kids were going, yeah, my dad's really dumb, and yeah, my mum knows nothing. It was really cute. I think it's cool. I think we underestimate them. I think we should, let them do more stuff. So anyway, that's me, and let's get into some content. So some assumptions I've made are that you guys are real estate investors and you love to save time. Would that be fair enough to say? And that you're real estate investors and you love to save money. Is that fair enough? Okay, so everything I'm about to share with you has those two things in mind. Okay, sound good? Cool, let's get into it. Out of all the stuff I cover in my book, there's lots of stuff, and the target is parents and teachers and influencers of children. I thought, which is the one that's going to be most relevant to real estate investors if I'm standing on the stage on the Gold Coast today? And I thought, it's got to be collaborative consumption. Who here has heard of that? Oh, yay. Cool, I'm going to teach you something. That's lucky. Because there's a couple of speakers out there on this stuff, but not a huge amount. But it's a really big global phenomenon, and I think it's really cool. So basically, collaborative consumption is, as you can see on screen there, less ownership of stuff, more sharing of stuff. Are we the sharing, caring kind? Hope so. And we're sharing services, skills, space, and time. Let me take you into that some more. The reason this thing has come about is because of technology, okay? So once upon a time, you could have been, let's say, giving away a grand piano. And you don't know that a family a few doors down would love a grand piano, but you don't happen to know them because they're a few doors down and we don't happen to do the neighbourly thing so much anymore, do we? So now through technology, you can put that grand piano on and say where it is and say what the deal is, and bang, you can have a deal. So that's the concept. But it also works on mass numbers. So some of these things I'm going to show you, you might go, haven't really heard of that one, or can't really see that working here in Australia. Well, remember, I get to go and do cool things like hang out in Silicon Valley, and I get to hang out with some of the best in the IT field, and I'm going to give you stuff that's coming. So you might even remember some of the stuff I'm telling you today in a couple of years' time and go, oh yeah, I remember her saying that, and look at it now. It might not too, who knows? Okay. I understand you might have been introduced to the concept of Airbnb before, is that right? Okay, who here has stayed in the Airbnb? Quite a few of you. Who here has rented their space on Airbnb? Not so many. That's interesting, you're investors. That's a possibility. Well, I'll tell you what's happening around the world. I got the latest stats. Last month, 500,000 listings. That's a few spots, isn't it? 34,000 cities, 192 countries. Sydney's going gangbusters on it, the big cities where there's high rental return and they want even higher. Now, I do need to proviso, there are legislative things around this, and I believe Dipner would be the best person to ask about that. But I want to warn you about what's coming and what's happening in Europe. And yes, when new innovation disrupts the industry, because that is effectively what Airbnb is doing, it is totally disrupting the accommodation industry, then there are issues, because guess what? The law can't keep up with this stuff. It comes along, everyone starts using it. Remember, I talk mass numbers and technology, and then they go, oh my God, what do we do with this? So, of course, we're all, very ethical and we do things above the board, but just be aware, you have to keep track of how legislation's changing with this as well. By 2020, they're predicting there'll be 31 million members of car sharing. That's good for the environment. On average, 4 to 5 new co-working spaces. Anyone here work in a co-working space? Couple? Where are you guys from? Where are they? Brisbane? Sydney? Any others? Melbourne? Who has no idea what a co-working space is? Okay, let's explain that. A co-working space is where you don't take out the whole premises and rent it, you just take out a desk. And you can take out a desk for a day, or for a week, or for a month, usually no longer rental commitment than month to month. So that's pretty cool if the kids are just driving you a bit crazy from your home business, even if it's the real estate business, and you just need to get out of there and do some figures and do some phone calls in peace. So that's a good scenario as a user. But also for you guys as investors, could you be buying co-working spaces or commercial spaces that you could turn into co-working spaces? I'm really quite into that. I think it's a very exciting opportunity. I do let people come and use mine. I've worked out of a lot around the world. I checked out a lot in Silicon Valley. If you're really interested in the decor and stuff of them, I have a Pinterest board at pinterest.com/creativecollect, and there's a whole co-working board full of pins of cool stuff I've seen. I will say one of the most important things about them is curation. And what that means is you don't just get the space and rent it out, but you've got to think of someone who's going to give it that community vibe and that culture, because that's what people are coming for. They're not just coming for, here's a space, it has aircon, it has tea and coffee, and I like the desk. They've got to want to come back there because they want to hang out with such and such because they're really cool. They put on cool events, or I met that guy last time and we did this business deal. I want more of that. Do you get what I mean? Curation person's very important.
Yvette, you might just explain what Pinterest is.
Pinterest, okay. Bet all the 25 to 45-year-old females here know what Pinterest is. All the ones that like shoes probably know what Pinterest is. So Pinterest is it's like a window shopping thing, almost. The pin boards are window shopping, and you can see stuff you like online, and you can pin it and come back to it, okay? So I see a cool co-working space, and I pin it, and I come back to it. So I use it as a repository for cool content that I want to come back to. Because who's ever had the scenario where you bookmark something, and then you try and find it, you're like, where's that bloody bookmark? Yeah? So it's quite good for pinning real estate, actually. Yeah? You see that one? Pin it to, New South Wales, some little town you're looking at. Pin it to some little mining town you're looking at. And then you can easily go back to it. So recently I was researching places to stay in Indonesia for holiday period with my girlfriend. We both became pinners, and we were pinning accommodation we both liked. And then we sat down together and went through the ones we liked the look of. Do you kind of get the idea? It's very easy to use. It's very good. There's also, on this whole state of the globe, big picture stuff, 1,000 new TaskRabbits added each month. So TaskRabbits I'll go into in a bit more detail in a moment, but basically, who here has tasks they'd just rather not do? They'd rather get someone else to do it, outsource it. The stuff we just don't have time for. It could be the garden, it could be the filing, it could be running down the dry cleaning, all that stuff. So in America, TaskRabbit's huge. People just outsource that. They have a much bigger outsourcing culture than we do. I'll tell you more about it, and there's actually a Aussie version of it that's even better than TaskRabbit at the moment. So back to this Airbnb concept, and I just want to give you a live scenario. So I have to proviso, done an Airbnb investing thing myself, but I've been talking to my best mate who happens to live in Reykjavik, Iceland, of all places. So he bought this apartment and he was so excited back in about 2008. And he's like, Yvette, it's so cash flow positive. I'm so excited. This is going to be paid off in like 3 years. Then does everyone remember what happened to Iceland later that year? Yeah, so here's me going, I'm off to New York, come meet me there. And he's going, man, I've just lost everything and I owe the bank so much money, I don't even know what I'm going to do. So Iceland was one of the first to go. It's also been one of the first to recover. So this is his 2-bedroom apartment in Reykjavik. He's now happily with a partner, lives somewhere else, and he just rents this space out. So there it is. It's 2-bedroom, 1 bathroom, accommodates 6. A monthly price, 4,169 Aussie dollars. So I did my research, and I asked him, I said, so you get more on Airbnb, right? He's like, heaps more. And I said, how much more? And he's like, I don't know, and he couldn't come up with a figure. I went and researched, and the average monthly for about a similar thing is about 1,400. So you're getting about 3 times the return there. Now that doesn't mean it's always rented out, does it? And he said though, and this is the reason I thought I'd mention this to you, it's becoming a bit of a problem in Reykjavik, this whole Airbnb thing. He said all the hotels are pissed off with it, for starters, because they can't get people to come stay with them because everyone just goes to Airbnb to stay, yeah? And they have often maybe a better experience because they get the home comforts and all the rest of it. The other part of the equation is the short-term rental people are finding it hard to find a place to rent. Isn't that interesting? And right now, I don't know what you guys are experiencing, but where I live on the Sunshine Coast, really high rental demand. And in other places of the world, it's high rental demand, but it's things like this that are driving it. So what's going to happen about that, I don't know, but I can tell you in Europe it's a big problem and becoming more so. And my prediction is it will happen here as well. So there he is. Part of the reason his is so successful is it's not just I'm on Airbnb, therefore I rent, therefore everything is wonderful. He has a good listing. He describes himself friendly. He talks about how he's well-travelled and he'll look after you. He's gone out of his way to get really good reviews. I even wrote him one when he was building his listing up, just like a character reference. I've known him many years. He's travelled, he's always very accommodating. And I see he's done that with a lot of other people. I see, of course, he's asked our travel agent friends and people who are really highly relevant to what he's trying to do here. And the other part of the equation is awesome pictures. Of course, this is marketing online, right? You're pretty much just marketing this property, and he does a fair bit of social media around it as well. Yeah? So could we all do that or have a look at it? Maybe as a strategy. It's an interesting one. Here's another one. I found this story and I thought I'll throw that in there too. This is on a website I really like called NextWeb. And the story is called I Bought an Apartment to Rent Out on Airbnb. And she bought it in Las Vegas. And she bought it for $40,000. She redecorated it for $10,000. She put a bunch of IKEA stuff in there. And there's all the figures, because I know you guys like figures. And so she's saying she thinks it'll take a little under 4 years to completely pay off the price. It's pretty good. But again, proviso, talk to other people and experts in here. There is legislation. Investing in America is very different to investing in Australia. But again, I just want to highlight that this is what's happening in the world. Technology is enabling this. And trends are changing in a big way. Okay, here's another concept, and I thought relevant to real estate investors, not accommodation, but stuff. So, how many of you own a whippersnipper? How many of you use it more than 5 times a year? Okay. How many of you haven't used it in like 6 months? Yeah, there's quite a few hands there. That this is the problem, right? People buy these pieces of equipment that are really quite expensive, some of them, and then we hardly use them. So that's a bit dumb, right? It's a bit, it's not very environmentally friendly. So there's this thing called OpenShed. Have you guys heard of this? Use it? It's an Australian one. And you can put on your whippersnipper and you can rent it out for $12. It's pretty cool, right? Random stuff, projector. Might not need it every day, might need it for the footy finals. Go hire the projector on OpenShed. Post hole digger. How often do you need one of those? What about one of these? You know, when you're moving that house and clearing out that investment to do whatever you're doing, you're like, I really wish we had a trolley. Why don't you just go, oh, OpenShed, fantastic. I can get this for $5 a day or $15 a week. And look, it's down the road. Yeah? You don't have to go to Bunnings and hire it. You don't have to go and buy one. What I also think is really cool is this person, and you can choose to do this with your stuff, is donating 100% of the funds to Oz Harvest. And my mate Ronnie Khan runs Oz Harvest, and it's a fantastic organisation that takes surplus food and gives it to hungry and homeless people. How cool is that? So, you know, when you go to a big function and there's all this leftover food, Ronnie's team come in their vans and they get it to those people. We actually were at a conference with Ronnie. Get this as a side story, it's a cool one, technology. And she said, I've managed to cut deals with all the supermarkets in terms of the leftover bakery and foodstuffs. She said, but not Woolworths. And we went, Woolworths. And we went, what can we do to help you, Ronnie? And she said, well, I'd love you all to tweet them and tell them what, silly idiots they are and that they need to change that. So we all got on there on Twitter. By the end of the conference, Woolworths were taking her food. How cool is that? She was taking Woolworths food. So Twitter and change and just a few people in a room, man, you can do some cool stuff. Who's here thinking, I've got stuff I could put on there, make some extra money, got some ideas going? Now, here's the idea as well, in line with the book, get the kids doing it. Yeah? Pocket money, percentage of. Are we thinking some more ideas now? Yes. Make yourself useful. You want money? Go and put all the stuff on OpenShed. Okay, TaskRabbit. Save time, outsource tasks. I mentioned this one. It is big in America. Like, they just don't do those silly little jobs. They go, why would you do that? Just TaskRabbit it. Everyone does it, especially in places like San Francisco. Now, it's quite a mindset shift to go, I actually don't have to do this task. I actually could get rid of it. So you've got to make that mental transition of being ready to let go and not do everything. You control freaks, you. So here's some examples. Cleaning, handyman, personal assistants, moving. But this one, Airtasker, is actually bigger in Australia. Now, this is a good one. 2 ways again. You could go on there as a user. I need to outsource something. Because what's your time worth? You know, if you actually broke down your time and went, I've got to fit fitness in, I've got to fit my property investing in, I've got to fit my work in, I've got to fit my family in, it's actually not that much time left, is there? Yeah? So what else did I forget? Social, whatever other things you're into. Therefore, buy yourself some more time and get rid of the stuff you don't really like doing. Now, the other way around, if you're trying to get money together to property invest, there might be easier ways, but this is something you could do. Again, the kids, get them on here offering their services. Do you know on the Sunshine Coast, we've got a 40% youth unemployment rate? Isn't that terrible? It's one of the highest in the country. And I don't know it's actually pretty bad around the world right now, youth unemployment. Did you know that? And we live in this technology age with all this choice. This doesn't match up. What's going on? I don't know why more of them aren't on these things. But guess what? They don't teach them that at school, do they? Hey guys, today we're going to go on Airtasker and we're going to earn money. They don't teach them that. It's all about go to university, get a job, and hope like hell you get one. Yeah. So who might try this? It's all, like I talked about, mass numbers. If all of you actually walked out of this room after this weekend and started using this, you'd actually give a big mass influx. And you guys could be exchanging, or your kid could be doing something for you over here. Do you know what I mean? We've all got these resources that we don't utilise enough. Who here's got space? Just empty space they'd love to get some money off. It could be a garage, it could be a shed, it could be an attic, it could be anything, right? So this is an Australian one as well. Have you heard of this one? Space Out. It's pretty cool. You can put your space in, 16 spaces found, go from there. Advertise your business. Who here has storage sheds? I know Dipner's always been a fan of those for investing. There's quite a few storage places on there as well. Clicking onto it. And I don't know why more of them don't use technology like this as part of their business. Because you have to ring a number and talk to someone, and I do all my admin at 11 o'clock at night. That doesn't really work for me. What about this cool name? Mimi. Where do you reckon they got that one from? Roadrunner, pretty cool. Okay, so this one connects people who need stuff to move with people on the move. Who here knows someone who wants to move to sunny Queensland? Who here would like to move to Queensland? Everyone. So my cousin's in Melbourne. She would really love to move to Queensland, but it overwhelms her to think of all her stuff. She's a stuff kind of person, and how she would move it here without it costing an arm and a leg. So I've suggested this one to her, and there literally could be a truck coming up with a bit of space, and you literally could chuck it in and do a deal with them. How good would that be if you're investing in some random place and some random truck just happens to be coming up that way, and you could get that stuff up there without paying for it all yourself? I'm seeing nodding heads. How good is this? So I'm only introducing you to like 10 or something of these today, but I hope you guys leave in the mindset that I wonder if there's an app for that. I wonder if there's a website for that, and start to utilize it, whatever it is you're trying to do around investing, because quite possibly there is. Here's another one. You can even rent out your driveway. We've pretty much rented out every inch of your property by now. So driveways and parking spaces are an absolute premium in cities, right? Brisbane here has one of the highest around. It's more than I find Melbourne and Sydney and Auckland, and I travel a lot. Brisbane's outrageous. Got in the lift with the guy the other day, and he goes, oh my God, that car park cost me more than my flight here. It's true though, right? So wouldn't you love to be able to go, oh yes, I'll pay this guy $20 instead, and I walk down the hill into Brisbane City, and I'm quite happy to do that. Yeah? So we can use it, we can rent it. Who here has stuff they just want to get rid of? They can't be faff putting it on Facebook or doing Gumtree and having a garage sale. Who doesn't want to do any of that and just wants to get rid of it? You might like these ones then. Who wants to get cool stuff to put in the property that they're about to rent out and make it look nice and get random items, but maybe all from the one place, all online easily? Free Cycle, Zilch, Oz Recycle, all Australian places you can give away stuff for free or pick up free stuff. No, Steve, you're not allowed to go on it. He's banned from cash converters. He's always picking up stuff. Even this is good, right? Clothes, shoes, get rid of them, help someone else out who maybe really needs it. And introduce people in your community to these things too, who are maybe, doing it tough and need introductions to this sort of stuff. Because, the old saying, one man's, junk is another man's treasure. So there are some of the collaborative consumption ones. This one is not, but this is my favourite app of the week. So I threw it in at the last minute. Who's using this one? It's kind of new. Oh, lots of you are. Okay. It's super cool. The ones who aren't, and again, you're missing out if you don't like technology because you don't get to play with this cool stuff. House is a app, and you can get inspiration on decor through it, right? And you flick through. I think someone's talking about decor afterwards, so I hope I'm not stealing any thunder here. But what I really like about it is if you go, oh my God, I love those lights, you can click on it if they've got a price tag, and it takes you to that website. And you can be pressing buy now within a couple of clicks. None of the stuffing around trying to work out and putting it on Facebook and going, does anyone know where these are from? I really like them. Good, huh? It's all integrated. So the people online are getting instant sales through people connecting with the position, the look, where to get it from, the price, sent to them. Wonderful. Does anyone here sell housey stuff? Because you might want to get onto this and get your stuff in those pictures. I really love the kids' bedroom inspiration. They've got really cool, pirate ships and just innovative stuff. And I'm also into the garden at the moment, so there's heaps of cool ideas on that as well. Who's going to try that one? It's brilliant. Such a good working app. When they just work well, they are just a dream. So I said I would save you money as well. Who here uses apps and budgeting things to save money and know where their money's at? Kind of an important thing to do if you're a real estate investor, right? So I like to try lots of tech, and I really do try a lot of it, and then I pass on the good stuff. So I decided one part is like, right, I'm doing us a budget, and it's not just going to be a Google spreadsheet. It's going to be integrated with our bank accounts and all that kind of stuff. So I went out, this is about probably 2 years ago now, and I tried a bunch of them. And some of them make you all these promises, and they sound good, and you pay a monthly fee, and then they just don't work how you thought they were going to work. And then I struck on this free one, and it's an ANZ one, and it's brilliant. Does anyone use this one? So you don't have to be an ANZ customer to use it. And what I love about it is I have multiple bank accounts, right? So I've got 3 companies, all with different banks. I've got my personal finances, or our household ones, and then I've got the commercial finances, and then I've got international finances, and I've got PayPal finances, and it brings all of that together in the one place. How good's that? Yeah, really good. And so it takes a bit of setting up, but once you have, look at these really cool dashboard things. I love dashboards. We don't have to work out really with much difficulty what's going on. What's my net worth at? What's my real estate at? You know, how fast am I paying it off? Is it good? Is it bad? Click around your personal finance, see what the trends are, how much you're spending on shopping. It kind of allocates it all. What's all this BWS stuff, all that kind of stuff. So we're going to try that one? Yeah? We're liking this stuff? Good note. What about this one? This is another Aussie. I love sharing the Aussie tech stories because we do produce some really cool technology and we don't always get the sort of marketing machines behind it like the Americans have sometimes. So these guys are out of Sydney, but again, I tried a bunch and I just went, this is just a really good app and it's free. What I really like about it is it goes alert. Like if there's a big bill unexpectedly, it alerts you so you can kind of go, hang on, what was that for? That was in my cash flow projection. And it tells you if you've gone negative for any reason. And it also just tracks stuff. So you can set it up to give you alerts and do whatever you want it to do based on what you're trying to achieve. So you can set it to give you alerts to your email or just use it as an app. It's really easy. So getpocketbook.com is another one from the finance section in my book. Who here buys heaps of stuff and ends up with a big shoebox of receipts? Or as my partner does, the ute of the car. You go to get something, it's like, this paper just attacks you. So shoebox is a great one because when you pull them out of that shoebox, what about when they're faded, when they're those really waxy, greasy receipts and you can't even read anymore what's going on with them? So just take a photo the moment you do it with this one and it's in the system and it tallies them up. And when the accountant goes, okay, end of tax, I need your receipts, you go, here you go, you're all done. And again, you don't have to do this. Kids as young as 5, 6, and 7 can be doing this for you. Anyone use this one or another one? It's a fun game. Do you like this app? Use a different one, but find it useful? Yep. If you keep doing it and get in the rhythm, it's much easier than having the box. Cool name, right? Shoebox, because that's what the people turn up to the accountants with. So look, I could go on all day. I could speak all day about cool apps and technology, but the difference is whether you use it or not, right? So you only get a result if you actually download it, try it out, and see what you can do with it. There are 500 apps and websites that I think are super cool in the book, and they're aimed at people who aren't using technology that much or would like to use it more, and I've kind of put it in different chapters, so you can just flick open and go, okay, I want to be more environmentally conscious, and there's a whole chapter on technology for that. Or I want to save money, there's a whole technology chapter on that. I want to be more creative, I want to whatever with my family, I want to teach my kids about technology so they're not teaching me. There will be an app in the book about that. Because it's pretty crazy, the kids are just going nuts. Who here, their kids are like this? Give them the chance. Yeah. There's kids as young as 18 months old and 2 years are pretty good on YouTube and apps and things, aren't they? And it's funny because of what I do, people come up to me and go, oh yes, but my nephew, he does this and that. And then, someone else, oh yes, but my granddaughter. And they don't actually realise they're all like that. They're all really amazing. But I think if I can just leave you with something from this perspective of the book, we're the first generation where our kids genuinely have known something more about us rather than just thinking they do. And that's a big responsibility. We remember life before computers and technology, and so it's up to us to bridge that new generation, right, from life before computers to life very much with them. Whether you like it or hate it, they're not going away. So I'm basically asking, step up, get into the stuff, find an angle that you find enjoyable and that you get a benefit from, like real estate investing apps, and then I think you'll really get into them. These are my two. First opportunity, into the Apple store they go. That was on the way to the airport. They can't help it. You'll encounter all sorts if you haven't already. My son, 9 years old, Mum, I want to go on Instagram. I'm like, oh my God, I wasn't expecting that for at least a few years. And it's a big judgment call, isn't it? Do I let them use it? Don't I? But my spin is learn about it so that you can teach them. how to go about it. So a lot of his school friends are on it, but the parents aren't on it. They don't even know what Instagram is, which is pretty much like going, yeah, you can go to that party called Instagram. I don't know where it is or who's there or what they're doing, but off you go. So I think it's pretty important that we learn that stuff. There's also a lot of negative conversations out there about technology. So I'm just really trying to say it's actually a really positive thing if you learn about it, if you come from a place of education and know what you're doing on there. In summary as well, I'm out there saying digital literacy is the new financial literacy. I actually think if you don't have these skills, you're going to find it harder to get a job, which might be why there's so much youth unemployment. You're going to find it harder to progress in your career because people who have really good digital skill repertoire will progress ahead of you. You're going to find it harder to start a business because people who have those skills and don't have to, pay lots of money to people to do websites and market them and so on will get there faster. And grow your business as well. Lots and lots of businesses have gone under in the last few years with GFCs and stuff, and there's lots of reasons for that, but I think a big one is actually digital disruption. They haven't realised that was happening, that people were doing business in different ways, and they haven't moved with the times. So please make it a priority. And just know that if you go, oh, yeah, well, my son's pretty digitally literate, he's on there a lot, that doesn't mean that they're doing anything particularly useful. And this is not social networking really either, is it? But they call it that. So get on there and teach them stuff. I'll sign off. That is my website. They're my Twitter handles. And I'm around tomorrow morning. I'm looking forward to hearing some more content myself down here. It's been a while since I was immersed in this real estate stuff, and I love it. And I'm looking forward to hearing it. And yeah, love to talk to any of you. Thanks for having me.
Give Yvette a round of applause.
Can I start here? Okay.
Now, Yvette, while we've still got you up there, is there anyone that'd like to ask Yvette a question while we've got this wealth of talent on the stage? We've got you all stunned, have we? You know what? One thing you didn't answer for me. How much is the book?
Oh, the book is $25 at events, $30 in stores. You guys get a deal.
There you go. And I've got 20 to give away. Question over here for us first.
Yvette,
Yeah.
just a question on the ANZ app. I'm not sure if you may know, but I went into it and started doing it. But what I got concerned is if I start loading up all my other bank loans with other banks, is it visible to ANZ?
Good question. I don't know the answer to that. You could ring them before you do it. A lot of people are hesitant with technology just full stop because they're like, oh, they get information about me and I might not want them to. So that's your judgment if you don't want them to. But usually if I get more of a benefit, I'm prepared to give them that information to get the benefit I want. So, but ask them first just to double check because that's a fair point. But I mean, even if they did and they said, come on, bring your loans to us, you can say no.
Yeah, I don't think I want them to know everything else I'm doing though.
Fair enough.
If you're using that bank.
That's what it is,
Yeah.
Thanks.
Your question here.
I've got a 2.5-year-old and he'd spend all day on the ABC for Kids app if I let him.
Yeah.
Is he too young to start learning how to use an iPad for real purposes? Or
So I was curious about that myself. I was like, what is actually the legal age, or the age they recommend for, how much time? So I'll tell you what the authorities recommend, but then I reckon you know your kid the best as well, and you know what they're capable of. So under 2, they actually recommend no screen time. Isn't that interesting? Yet I'd say...
You try keeping them off.
Yeah, 95% of Australian kids under that age have definitely had screen time. Oh, on the side note, they call them screen ages, the older ones now. Yeah. They say for ages 2 to, I think it's 8, 2 hours a day, but balanced with at least 1 hour physical activity. But I think what's most important is that you put them on stuff that's extending them, because left to their own devices, they'll just download absolute rubbish, and it's just mindless stuff, right? It's not productive, it's not teaching them great life skills or anything. So you have to be quite diligent at going, now, hang on, what's on here? How old are you again? Right, let's get some new ones on and look at the book or look online and find cool ones that you could download, and kind of be mindful that that's been on there about 6 months. Let's get that off and try with something new, because I know my daughter loves sticking to the one she knows really well. But I loved it when I put a coding one on, and she turned around and said, I love this.
Computer coding?
Yeah, like computer coding. She was 6, and she said, Mum, this is my favourite one at the moment. I said, oh, good, that's coding. She goes, no, it's not. And I said, yeah, it is. It's called Codable, K-O-D-A-B-L-E, because coding is the big language of the future. If they've got coding skills, man, there are 10,000 jobs in Australia for that right now, out of the 100,000 on Seek. There you go.
Wow, 10% in coding.
Yep,
Wow.
IT skills.
Very good. Down the back for us.
I was actually just answering a question about the ANZ Money Manager.
Oh, yeah?
It's not an ANZ system. It's white labelled to a company called Yodlee in America.
Ah.
So they've actually just paid Yodlee a service fee and put the ANZ brand on the front of it and then offering it as a free service. So, no, they can't see anything. It's not even their system.
Oh, cool. There you go.
Thank you for the answer. And how old are you?
2.
How do I look?
No, very good. That's what I'm saying. The younger generation know more about this than we do, or certainly me. Any other questions for Yvette? Just
Codable is an iPad app, and it's spelled Kodable. It's a little blue fuzzy thing, and it doesn't seem like coding because it's just getting him to go in different directions around this maze, but directional stuff is coding.
let's give Yvette a big round of applause. Very interesting. All right. Next thing I want to enthrall you with, we're doing all right today? You having fun? Yeah? Is design and decorating. Now, when we get into staging houses and presenting houses and building houses, well, units or whatever else, renovating, we've got to know some basic principles around what goes together. So the next section is on exactly that, from a design perspective and also then from a decorating perspective. Because my next speaker that I've got coming up here has been one of my students for 6 years, 5, 6 years, something like that. But she comes from an architectural background, a design background, and this is her thing. She's run very big businesses. She's from WA, and she's worked on some very huge contracts for design and decorating and project managing basically some of the big office buildings and all sorts of things in WA. So huge talent we have here with us. Let's welcome Helena Farrell. Give her a round of applause.
Hello. Okay, which one's
Do you
which?
want to introduce yourself, Helena, while I change the slides?
Yeah. Well, my name is Helena Farrell, and I'm from Perth. I haven't done this very much, so it's quite new. I don't know how to use this poker thing, whatever it is.
Oh, look,
Pointer,
I'll teach you
pointer.
that.
Yeah, my background, well, once the slides come up, there's some more stuff in there. But my qualifications are interior designer, and from there, I've worked in building design, architectural, and project management. And let me see, I've been doing it for, gosh, how old? I'm getting old. No more. I'm 48, and I've been doing it since I was 21, so for quite some time. And yeah, I've run my business.
What kind of jobs have you worked on?
Okay, I've worked on commercial. And
What type of commercial?
Okay, my first business was interior design, and we did design documentation, project management, and contract admin. Probably fluctuated from 70 to 90% commercial, depending on what was going on in the market, and then the balance was residential.
What kind of budgets did you have to manage?
Well, the business built up over time initially.
But when you were given a contract, a contract
A
to
big-
do, what kind of budget were you given on some of that
Well,
sort of
if
stuff?
it was an office fit out, the last contract, the largest contract we did was just before I sold my previous business, which was an interior design business I'd established and built up over, basically over 18 years. And that was Rio Tinto's office tower. We won the contract to do the design, and we were basically the main designers for that project. And that was about probably $35 million project.
How's
And
that?
So it was fairly large.
So, Helena talks about this kind of stuff as though, that was about a $30 million project, and that one over there was a $15 million one. And so I just wanted to extract that information because some of the budgets you've worked on have been rather huge.
Yeah, it was a 9-story office tower.
Yeah.
And it was a 3-story, it was 3-story building, and it was in the city in Perth. It was basically an amalgamation of a number of Rio Tinto's offices, and they all brought a lot of them into the city. And it was about 15,500 square metres of office space. So it
So
was
some big deals.
Yeah, I mean that took 3 years. It wasn't a short-term project.
You also now obviously develop a lot of projects yourself,
Yeah.
and the design and you know, marketing, all of that kind of stuff.
Yep.
You produce some amazing documentation for sale and
Yep.
for marketing documentation with that, with all the design stuff in there.
Yep.
And you do contract design work as well?
Yes, the business has led over time from interior design to currently the new business that, well, new, it's about probably 2.5 years old, is more design and architecture and interiors. I'm going back to doing a fair bit of interiors.
Because you've got
at the
an
moment.
architect on staff, don't you?
Yeah, I've got a full-time registered architect. So as a business, we are a registered architectural practice that can do architecture, interior design, project management for banks and for on a legitimate level for institutions that require a qualified project manager, as well as development project management.
So you do everything from renovation projects
Yep.
through to construction, through
Yep.
to big office fit outs and stuff as well.
Yeah, we can do the whole lot. I mean, focus primarily now is probably more residential property developments, residential and mixed use, so a mixture of resi commercial. And on top of that, we're still doing renovation work. I've been asked from a previous client who pestered me for quite some time. I've done a lot of work for him over time, and we're doing his house refurbishment, and that's a 3-storey house on the beach. I mean, this one's a large budget. It's between 1.2 to 1.5 million for the renovation, but the house is worth, he bought it for 3.1, and on completion it'll be worth about $6 to $7 million. So it's an extensive job.
And a big part of that is what you're doing and project managing to put into it.
Yeah, we're improving the home. It's old. It's an 80s home. It requires updating, and that's what he wants to do. He wants to do it over a period of time, probably 18 months to 2 years, unless he gets impatient. And yeah, I mean, he's got a business which earns him very high cash flow. So he's on a high income. He's got a high asset base. And I've done lots of projects for him in the past
So
through
he
my
knows
previous business. Yeah.
So this afternoon you're going to go through some design concepts and some
Yep.
decorating concepts and try and teach us some things that we can incorporate in our projects
Yeah,
and
definitely.
how we can put things together.
Yep, and they're not all. I mean, I've started, over time, it took 20 years to build my business up to the
Sure.
point where I had the experience, I had the staff, I had the capacity to do large projects. But when I first started, I mean, we were doing projects, where we did renovations for people that were only $20,000, and I charged, $1,000 for my time, and it took me weeks to do. So, you start off at a certain point and you work your way up. And I did, I actually used to be, a number of years ago when I started, in the first 5 years, I was a Dulux colours consultant for WA.
Were you now?
Yes.
There you go.
Yeah, so we were one of three. I was one of myself and one of the ladies who worked with me.
Yeah.
We were one of 2 or 3 colour consultants in WA for Dulux. So I learnt a hell of a lot about colour and what you can and should not put together.
Well,
and
I'll
all
let
sorts of
you
things.
share some of that with everybody,
Yeah.
and I'll leave you up here.
Thank you. Okay.
Now, well,
How do I
the
use
button
this?
that's worn out
Yeah.
is the one that's forward. That's
Yeah.
the one I leave my
And that's
finger on,
back.
and that's back.
And the green's a pointer.
The green's a pointer. It's all yours.
Okay, well, my name's Helena, as you know, and I run, one business, but there's 2 different divisions. One's called Total Development Solutions, and the other one's called Property Passion, Architecture and Interiors. Basically, as I've just discussed, I've worked in construction, design and construction for 23 years. I'm also an active property investor and a property developer. I'm involved in projects with other people in the investors through JVs, as well as just, generally interested in property in general and investing. I've done a number of education things over the years. One of them is Platinum. I tried many before that and found that they didn't quite fit. I like the fact that Platinum Ultimate Dimpner's model is to sell education, not to sell product. And what I found previously is stuff I looked at, it was all product oriented and very little education. You were just really buying somebody's, stuff that they wanted to get rid of. I've also done Bob Anderson's mentoring program, which was beneficial with property development. I'm very passionate about design. I believe, good design Designing space as well as clever use of materials, does definitely increase the return on your projects. And in the next hour or so, I'll give you a few ideas on what you might be able to do. These are just some pictures of some projects I've worked on over time, kitchens and bathrooms. These are fairly upmarket, but they have all design fundamentals that in some shape or form you should try to introduce into your projects. You don't need to go for costly finishes. Yes, there's marble in here. Yes, there's stones, but you can use alternative materials to get similar effects. This is some past work, some commercial work we did over a number of years, commercial building refurbishments. We used to do building, office towers, shopping centre refurbs. And qualified interior designer. I've also been heavily involved in interiors and architectural design as well. I've worked from single residential, really probably up to 5 million, and then commercial up to 35 million. During my career, I've also done further courses to expand my knowledge so that when I'm talking with people that I need to either employ or deal with, I have an understanding of what needs to be done. I've done building design, so I did architectural drafting to learn building design. I've done courses in project management. I've also finished in the last 5 years, since I moved from my previous business. I did a diploma in building and construction, and I'm just finalising my builder's registration at the moment. So it's good to have a parameter across the board to know the details in construction as well as the design, because design implicates construction considerably. And I run this current business. Here's some more projects that I've worked on. These were some apartments that we did a number of years ago. And then some of our clients, sort of across the board, different types of businesses, private residential, Rio Tinto, we were their main designer for about 12 years. Telstra, there's a number of main, big companies in there, as well as just small little bits in between. So, we would take on projects anywhere from $20,000 up to, in the millions, depending on what was required. Just some rough schematics. So these are some little boards we did for a restaurant. Design. Really, it has to increase property value. What you're doing at the end of the day is to increase the value of what you're producing. Basically make it interesting, make it functional, and then maximise space with volume and open areas. Yesterday, Drew mentioned that. It's a major, major factor. Volume creates the illusion of space. Even if you don't have a floor plate that gives you a lot of space, there's a lot more ways of creating volume. Light also creates space. It gives the illusion of more space with reflection. And then you've got to design for the end user. Being a developer and an investor, you need to be on time and on budget, because both of those things cost you money. Attention to detail. That's where you can get a lot back with just detailed little items that make a big difference to the look of what you're doing. And then successful project management. You have to manage the whole thing from start to finish so that it doesn't just go on its own course and end up costing you a lot more in time and a lot more in money. Current example. This is a current project that I'm working on with another platinum JV with another platinum couple. And at the moment, we've secured a property a little while ago. We've obtained a DA. We basically are doing apartments on these. By pushing the design envelope with this particular project, we're able to get approval for the highest plot ratio that the town of Port Hedland has actually approved for the zoning of this property. And we're currently pre-selling, and the properties at the end of the day will offer, prospective buyers really good cash flow. And also, as developers, we're basically offering, cash rebates and incentives, to get the sales underway and construction underway. These are just some, the photos are a bit fuzzy, but just some interior visuals of what it will look like. Other stuff that myself and a couple of people from our office that we're working on, Port Hedland, Newman, South Hedland. We've also got a 36 apartment subdivision we're doing for a private client. Where it's got JV, the JVs. Where it's got CL, it's a private client. In Perth, and also doing a JV, a new one, working on 13 apartment development in Mount Lawley in Perth, and a renovation of that house I mentioned with Dimpner as well. These are some just schematics of some other developments that we've done some drawings for DA and for These are some for marketing purposes. What now? Well, currently, as I said, I'm managing the business, which goes under the two names. We've separated the names just to make it a bit clearer. And we do JVs with clients and also client residential property developments and renovations. We'll also do renos extensions and really, to be honest, any sort of work that comes up. Initial site selection, this is part of the development process that we can handle. So, site selection, due diligence, feasibility planning. We do architectural and master site planning. We get all the design documentation, 3D visuals, everything that's required for approvals, to obtain approvals. We get all the consultants involved that are required for approvals as well. Because, out of this, part of design is that you have to create something that can be built, and you have to also, before that, have to create something that can actually get approved. So the design process, from a pure design perspective, involves a lot of restrictions, from councils and a lot of restrictions from, just regulations, Australian standards, BCA, and all those sort of requirements that you have to fit in with. So you've got to get your orientation right, you've got to get cross-ventilation right, and they're just some of the basics. Then we also, part of the development job that we work on, all the development jobs, is the whole process, sourcing of finance, pre-sales marketing, it's all the marketing material, and then sales, title issue and site handover. Design, why is it important? Okay, it basically creates a practical environment and it's built for its purpose. So in a nutshell, good design has to work. It has to work, and it also has to look good and feel good. Has to be interesting, so it's not just something that if you create something that just doesn't grab a person when they walk in, it's going to be a lot harder to sell. It's also going to be a lot harder to rent out. You'll get a maximum return and yield if you make it, more interesting. It has to do something that catches a person's attention. It doesn't necessarily cost more. You can spend your money well. You should spend your money well, but you can do interesting design detailing without spending a hell of a lot of money. I've seen a lot of people spend lots of money on very expensive materials and products over the years, and they've been very ineffective. They haven't used those materials and products very well. And on the flip side, I've seen people use very, very cost-effective materials in an interesting way, and they look great. Also, you really need a design that's adaptable, that, with time can change, and with with decorating in particular, decorate fixtures that are costly, decorate things that are fixed and are very difficult to change, probably in a more neutral manner, because you can add stuff on to create interest. And really, when you come back to design, at the end of the day, what do you want to achieve? Before you even start the process, what do you want? Why are you wanting to improve the property? You've got to determine what your purpose is. So without a purpose, it's very difficult to select a strategy and select a design that meets that strategy and meets the need. So really, at the end of the day, you're holding or you're selling. Do you want to improve your rental yield? Do you want to increase the value to sell? Are you wanting to increase the value to hold on to it and obviously rent it for more? And, if you're renovating or if you're buying to renovate and to sell, you really need to pick your suburb very well. And you also need to pick, pay the right price, because some suburbs, this is about design, but design is reflected a lot. A lot of this stuff that I'll go through looks like renos because it's particularly applicable in that area as well. Certain suburbs you'll get a good uplift on renos, and other suburbs you won't. So you really need to do your due diligence up front and work that out. Where to start planning? This is where everyone should start. What's your budget? What does your market want? Feasibility, how much is it actually worth spending on your project? Work out a cost-return analysis before you get started. It's great to knock yourself out and spend a hell of a lot of money, but if it's not going to make you enough money, it's a waste of money. What's your time frame? So work out your time frame and add more time on, because it's likely going to take longer. And what's your experience and ability? Architect and interior designers, when do you need them? What's your own capability? And what's your, are they going to really help you on your project? What's your budget as well? Because if you really have a very, very low budget, you'll have to be very conscious about how much you spend on consultants, because you could take a lot of that budget up just on consultants. Process. Work out how and who will do the work, and if you can project manage it. And then, more stuff here. Work out a design that achieves what you want. So again, work out your brief. You know, can you reconfigure the internal space of what you've got? Larger spaces flow better. Is this within your budget? Can you add more space on? Can you do an extension? Do you have the budget? So you've got to do a budget costing based on a particular design that you select. If it's a new home, you'll probably select a new home based on a square meterage rate, because at the very beginning, that's what you'll have to budget it on. You'll have to cost it up on a square meterage rate, and the bigger you go, the more you're going to pay. And then do a timeline. So a bar chart, a Gantt chart, or just a basic time chart, you know, write down months. Just write down a list of months and how long you're going to take to do those. Or write down a list of the different work and how long it should take to do. And then at this point, you know, get help from an interior designer or architect if you don't know how to do this. They can help you with parts of a job. They can help you with the beginning, they can help you with the middle, they can help you with the end. You're really going to pay them based on what amount of work they actually do for you. So, now let's get started into the details. These are just 12 tips I've sort of picked up that I believe make quite a bit of difference to what you're doing. Adding more space. Now, obviously, if you add on space, it's going to increase the square meterage of what you've got, and therefore it will increase the value of the end property. So, adding on a bedroom, that usually increases quite a lot in value, because, you know, 2x1 is going to sell for a lot more than a 3x1, particularly if it looks good. You know, adding a bathroom generally will add quite a bit of value to a home as well, especially if it's a 3 and a 4 bedroom. Obviously 2x2, in some markets 2x1, 2x2 wouldn't make a lot of difference. It depends on your market. And then adding in on an outdoor covered space, a deck with a patio over, deck with cover over it. Again, with the outdoor lifestyle, that'll add on quite a bit of value as well. And then for street appeal, add on a front veranda and a portico. If your frontage and your street appeal, we'll go into that a bit later, that's another point. But if it's lacking, often adding on that space does two things. It improves the look of your home, therefore it gives a much better first impression, but it also gives a covered area to come into when people come in, and that's something that they do comment on. If they have somewhere where they come in and it's raining and they can sit there and try and get the keys in their doors without getting soaked, it's actually beneficial. Granny flat, obviously that's been spoken of already. That definitely adds value. If you've got a rental property, it'll also add yield. And then add on and split up existing space. So that's sort of a mixture. Sometimes you can split up an existing space to create a self-contained area like a granny flat, but it may be lacking a bathroom. So if you add on the bathroom and then split it up, you can often get extra rental yield as well as increase the value of your home, because you're technically adding on a bathroom, but you're really creating a granny flat. Then effective floor plans. When you're building, look at the size of the rooms. You'll see a lot of display home builders, a lot of project builders. Be very careful of the room sizes. Have a look at their plans, and if they don't have sizes on them, ask them, and go out and have a look at the display. I've seen plans with bedrooms. They call them bedrooms, and they're 2.4 metres wide. I would barely consider a study 2.4 metres wide, and yet that's what they call them. In WA, which is where I live and where I see, the average a third bedroom in a house, and even second bedroom now, has come down to 2.7. Now that is pushing to be a double bedroom, and people don't notice it. And also, they're very clever when they decorate them. You'll never see a queen size bed in a second or third bedroom because they won't fit. You often won't even see a double bed in there. You'll usually see a single bed for a very good reason, because that's the only thing that comfortably fits in there. Access to bedrooms. Again, this is space planning. When you're designing a new home, in particular, or renovation, try to keep the entry to your bedrooms away from your living areas if you can. That way it separates them. You know, have openings that can be closed off. So doorways, instead of putting large openings in between different spaces like the living area to the separate lounge area if you have it to the bedrooms, try and separate them for heating and cooling. Open plan kitchens, meals and living areas. They're very sought after. They fit in with our with the way we live, our lifestyle, and they also create space. They look big. And often the three areas, if they were separated, are often not that big. And then creating an outdoor alfresco area, having one that opens out from your living area. Laundries that open out, have doorways that open to a clothesline service area so that you don't have to walk halfway through the house. And garage, if your budget permits, is a better option than a carport. Again, it's it's a cost issue. Create outdoor areas that are suitable for the market you're going to be selling to. If it's a family market, you'll have to create an outdoor back area particularly that's suitable for children. You don't want steps and you don't want stuff all over the place. You probably want a lawn area that they can play on and enough room for, families to be able to put, an outdoor swing or something there. And again, if you can create a house on one level with no steps, it will be more suitable for most ages. If you have elderly people, steps are an issue. If you have small children, steps can also be an issue. Apartments under 50 square metres are hard to finance. So when you're designing apartments, if it comes to the point where, or you're currently doing it, be conscious of the square meterage of your apartments. And then obviously, dual key, you'll get a high rental. These are a couple of floor plans. This is one in particular that I worked on. We did the renovation. We actually didn't extend the house. This particular, where's that pointer gone? I've got to hold it down. That particular one there. That's actually reconfiguring an existing floor plan. I think this slide's gone in the wrong spot. Okay, I'll talk about this and I'll switch back. It's actually removing walls and adding volume. If you've got an existing house that you're renovating, basically create open plan area by reconfiguring and removing walls to make areas larger. One technique of simply opening up old kitchens that are closed in gives the perception of a larger home, even though the actual floor plate's the same, and it also adds value. Volume, if your ceilings are low, check that if you can remove them, and check, again, it's a cost issue, but if you do have the budget, it's something that can possibly be worth the money to spend on and cut back somewhere else. If you've got very low ceilings, have a look inside the roof, and if there's space to actually push it up even towards the centre and have a coffered ceiling, create space, it makes a big difference. The other thing is add light by making your openings and your windows larger. Again, it's a cost issue, so you'll have to look at if you can afford to do so. But particularly in a living area, if you don't do it anywhere else, just do it in the living area. It creates more light, it brings the indoors and outdoors together, and it creates more space. Oh, this one here, as I mentioned, hang on, sorry about this. Yeah, bifold doors. Actually, Ian mentioned those as well. Bifold sliding and operable doors open up a living area significantly. We use them all the time. This job here would probably be, better get a grip on this. Okay, that one there, it's a little bit hard to see. Sorry, it's fuzzy. I couldn't get a better plan. But this was a house in Perth. It has a front and it has a veranda and everything, which it's cut off on this plan. But fundamentally, it's an old house in Nedlands in WA. We did a renovation and I wouldn't say an extension, a rehash of what was there. Came through, bathroom stayed, so all of these rooms across the front stayed. Fundamentally, the whole house had already had an extension, I think back in the 70s. Where the yellow lines are, this was a bedroom here. Then you had a bathroom here, toilet there, and then this was, you came through here. So you came in the entry, went through there, that was the kitchen. Where I've done the red, that was open, so you went through there. There was no door there, that was closed off. So kitchen sat in here, you walked through into a dining area, lounge, entry, bedroom, bathroom. And then you came down the back and there was just this flat area. Then there was a drop of about 1.2 metres. It actually dropped into this area which was lower because the sites dropped off. There was a laundry up here that went down to a deck that you walked outside. And this was a really weird shape. It went across like this. And what happened out here was there was this area that was an awkward shape, difficult to furnish. There was this walkway that was totally useless. That was a problem. This courtyard was too high. Water was coming in from that window. So basically, what we did, I'm not sure if this wall was actually here. I don't think this wall was here. I think this actually came further down. So this wall wasn't here, this little bit here, but this doorway was. So it did some weird thing through here. and you walk through there, and then there was this bedroom out the back. There was also this room here that hosed the pool pump equipment, and it was sort of bricked in, but it was pretty bad. And then the pool fence literally went straight across here. There was this outdoor courtyard thing that really served no purpose, and that was about it. So what we did is we came in, I bricked this room up, opened a door back here, closed this door off, and made this into a bedroom. We made this into an internal sitting room. I wanted to make it into more, but it was too difficult and too costly to change it. So we came through there. We then, it had steps actually, sorry I missed. You went down and across here. So this is how you got in and out of that living room. There was a tiny little landing at the bottom that if you weren't careful, you'd hit the wall when you came down. So we basically created a storeroom, a linen cupboard there, extended this whole room here so that we created a toilet in there where you walked in. There was an actual doorway to close this all off. So you came down the stairs. I kept the stairs wide on purpose so that it created a connection. And then what we did here is this was all under the main roof line. For some reason, they had created the roof across here well past this shape. So all this area out here was actually covered. It wasn't covered with all tiles. It was actually covered semi-open, semi-closed. So all the roof rafters were exposed. So it sort of formed this weird pergola. So we opened that up across there, knocked this wall out, re-supported it all, and created a large dining living area through there. And then in there, made that into the kitchen. Again, we removed pokey little windows. We put full height windows there, French doors there that went out to the outside, put a new glass pool fence across there, frameless fence, so that when you looked out, all you saw was a pool and there was no obstruction there. This room here, we basically, in effect, knocked it down and extended it, and we made it into a walk-in pantry. It became a full scullery. It was quite large. It had bench tops, it had storage, it had everything in there. And then this bedroom. So we created a second little hub here with its own bathroom. So that was the second bathroom back there, which really served that room. It wasn't perfect, but based on what we had to work with, it worked much better and it flowed much better. So you came through there. So in effect, we kept the same floor plate, but we reconfigured it to make it much more up to date. We've created an open plan kitchen, meals, living area that faced out to the pool. So it created a full entertainment area, which people are looking for. That's removing walls, which we've just spoken about. This is another one that we did some time ago in Melbourne. It was a cheap reno. This was a real cheapie. We did this in 6 weeks. And basically, it's hard to see, but this was a bedroom, which you can see here. So that was this. That was the kitchen. So the kitchen was still here. This was a lean-to that consisted of these 2 or 3 pokey little spaces and a toilet, so you can't see it. The old toilet was back here. So we knocked everything out, opened it all up. It required a bit of re-supporting over the ceiling, so we had to put an LVL in here, and we gyprocked over it. Put big folding French doors through there to open the inside and out. And then we didn't have space for a lounge area. This space here wasn't big enough for kitchen, meals and lounge, so we made this room that sort of connected to it. So as you walked in, I don't have the photo, but it actually is it's all connected. So it was a cost-effective way to connect the spaces again. So pulling out walls, reconfiguring, opening. One of the other things I mentioned before was ceilings. This was an apartment we did some years ago. It was very, very dark and dingy when we started. It was a fairly upmarket location. It was on the beach in WA. We had an issue with this because it wasn't on the top floor. This was a middle floor. So we had a concrete slab above we couldn't touch. We had all services, ducted air conditioning that ran through the whole unit, as well as other pipe work in the ceiling. And so we had to conceal it, but I wanted to create space. And the ceiling was actually lower right in the entry. So we pushed up some of the air conditioning ducting as far as we could, create a coffered ceiling. So that's where, if you are able to, and also obviously if you have the budget, this suddenly became a very bright open space where I don't have a photo of when we started. I wish I did. I probably could find it if I looked through my archives. But it was dark, dingy, and quite revolting. This is, again, creating spaces internal out to external that flow through. This also was a separate room. This was a totally disconnected kitchen. It had a room and it had a doorway. Back here, actually, where that bulkhead is. That bulkhead, we had to frame up all the structure. It was vaulted through here and it was a little room here. It was actually a bedroom that was accessed from the back. We cut that back and reconfigured it. We actually have got these slats, not just for decoration purposes, but in that corner there and in this, right, one of these, we actually needed a steel supporting beam because it actually held up the main pitch of the roof. So we couldn't pull everything out, and as such, I had a steel post made that was rectangular instead of square. We clad it with timber to make it into a feature. If you can't hide it, if you need to have it there, don't try to leave it there. Hide it in some architectural detail that nobody would ever be able to tell that it's actually there, if you can. Okay, cosmetic. Painting, new flooring. Paint is honestly the quickest and the cheapest instant facelift you're going to get with decorating. You can't get away from that. Picking the right paint colour combinations, it makes it fresh, clean, new, and it can change a home completely. Internally particularly, try to pick neutral colours. It doesn't mean you have to go white or cream. You can go deeper, but pick neutral colours because they do appeal to people, and they're something that costs quite a bit to redo. So people can decorate the inside by adding colour themselves, but if they have to repaint, a whole house because it's blue, it's really not going to appeal to people either. Colours. I haven't really gone into colours a great deal, but neutral colours are pretty much, as you'd know, nondescript. Certain colours create certain psychological impacts on people, and blue is a particular colour that's quite cold. It's quite, it can be a uncomfortable colour to be in. It's probably the one colour in design and decorating that I really have never used internally, or very rarely used internally on walls. I have used it externally, but I've only used it externally as a blue-grey or as a blue-grey toning of some kind, and then it can work externally quite well. Obviously, it's pretty obvious. Remove wallpaper. If you've got timber floors underneath carpet, often it's cheaper to repolish them subject to their condition. Tiles. Big thing, use large format tiles, don't use little tiles. You can hunt around and get large format tiles for the same price as small ones, and they look a hell of a lot better. Keep your grout lines thin, it's a lot more impressive and it's a lot more up to date. Use light natural stone. If you're not quite sure what to use, try and use a light natural stone look. I mean, as long as it's not too heavy and it doesn't look too fake. If you've got the budget and it's an upmarket project, use real stone. You cannot beat real stone if you have the budget for it. Tiles, try to use low satin, not gloss. At the moment, particularly on the floor. On the walls they're okay, but on the floor, not particularly fashionable presently, and it hasn't been for a while to use glossy tiles. Carpet, try to use a mid to dark neutral colour. It sort of hides everything, usually goes with everything. Low pile. Plush carpets, keep away from them. When they're new, they pill. They leave fluff everywhere and they shade. So as people walk through them, they leave lines all over the place and leave footprints, so don't use them. This is a little reno we did in Melbourne, and that's what you can do with paint, basically. We did, where's it gone? No, wrong one. Okay, that's exactly the same house. All we did is we had to replace the fence because it was falling down. We've painted. We have replaced the front windows, painted everything, pretty much. Added in some new term posts, a couple of little fretwork corners, kept the tree, kept the lawn, painted all of that, got rid of the garden bed there. We retiled the front veranda. I picked up a cheap granite, I think it was bluestone, so we did it in bluestone, which looked a little more upmarket, painted the driveway, and that was pretty much it. We put a picket fence in as well. It didn't have a fence. So that was the extent of that reno. It wasn't big, but there's a big difference in the look of those two buildings. Kitchen. Kitchen's the next really a major area of the house. They do sell a house. It's a pretty important area. Reconfigure the space if you can. If it's a closed-in area, open it up. And also within a kitchen, project home builders love putting nib walls in. Get rid of them. They really cover over them with cabinetry if it's too expensive to get rid of them. If you're replacing the cabinets in a kitchen, bring them forward and cover the wall because they take up space. That's the one pet hate I have with nib walls. They restrict where you're going to put things. The nib walls around a fridge are never deep enough for a fridge, so your fridge ends up sticking out 150 mil anyway because they're too narrow. And basically, all you can do is paint them. So they pretty much, as far as I'm concerned, they're just ugly. And if you don't have to have them there, don't. You can do a lot more with cabinetry to make it look a lot better. nib walls. Okay. Probably a WA thing because it's brick and tile. You might not have it over here, so that could be a good thing. Basically, in Western Australia in particular, the houses are made out of brick and tile, and around fridges, they create these walls and they plaster them, and that is your alcove for your fridge. And you've just got this opening, and it's not big enough, it's not deep enough for a fridge, it restricts what's there. They also do it around ovens and cooktops, around ovens, built-in ovens, don't they, Seb? Yeah. And it's just a restriction with no gain, and I definitely don't like them. Ideally, if your kitchen is outdated, replace it all, because once you start partial replacement, you'll be almost up for the cost of full replacement. So again, it's subject to budget. Appliances, tapware and fittings, as a rule of thumb, always use stainless steel. It goes with everything, it's up to date, it looks modern. White, unless you've got a particular, like if you're in the industry and you're doing this for other people, I only use a colour or white or whatever if a particular client wants it, otherwise it's straight stainless for everything. And upgrade lighting. That's something that a lot of people don't do. If you have a look at the interiors that I'll show you, they all have really good lighting. And if you have the budget, use a pendant feature lighting in the kitchen. It can frame an island bench, it can frame a bench area, and it can be a nice decorative feature as well. Stone tops. Now stone tops are wanted, really expected everywhere. So if you're on a budget, engineered type of stone top is pretty much what you'd go for. Marble if you have the budget, marble and a real stone. If money's tight, at a very minimum, replace the tops, the splashbacks, handles, appliances if they're really old and particularly if they don't work, tapware, sink and lighting. Here's another, actually that's the kitchen out of that floor plan I showed you. That's the kitchen, and see that door there between the fridge and oven area? That's actually the door that goes into the pantry scullery behind this area, and that scullery ran from wall to wall, so you actually couldn't see how you got in there. At the home open, the agent had to leave it open because nobody knew there was anything in there. And that was the windows that we put. You can't see them very well, but big windows and then big French doors. And again, this started off as a really dingy, dark room. This one here, this is a reno we did in Perth. This was the before. This is a bad shot. This is actually the same kitchen, just bad light, different lighting. So it looks vastly different, and it's actually exactly the same thing. This is taken from this end, from those doors, and this one's taken from those doors. So this was the existing one, so you can see exactly the same configuration. You can see the ceiling going up there. There's actually a little step in it there, which we've retained. Difference is, this was all closed off, and it had this weird little cupboard facing this way. So it had this cupboard that faced out towards this thing, and then this cupboard here faced the side. We got rid of all of that, and we closed up the wall above it because there was no purpose, so I went there, we blocked that all up, and we've actually put cupboards all the way across, and from this end I actually made the laundry, because behind there was a laundry, so that part there I actually made into a linen cupboard from the laundry side. Oops, sorry. So that's again just reconfiguring what's there. That's just literally, we didn't do anything other than just update what was already there. So that's all decoration, and that is a cost-effective kitchen. That was a reasonable budget. That was reasonably low budget, didn't have a high budget. That whole kitchen's laminate. That bench top is a post-form laminate top. That island bench is a laminated square top. There is sinks, inset sink, cheap tap from Bunnings. Appliances are cheap. The only thing I splurged on were the splashback tiles. I happened to have them left over from a job. Otherwise, no, glass mosaics are not a cost-effective option. However, I had them left over, so I used them. Also had a couple of pieces of marble that were offcuts from a previous job we'd used, and they were sitting there at the marble fabricators. So I asked him to cut it into two pieces, and he literally grabbed it, and we just stuck it straight onto the corner just to create a bit of a screen. And that was it. The handles, not expensive handles, they were maybe $5, $6 each. So that kitchen there, it looks good, but it's not excessively priced. The floor here is marble, it's a stone floor, it's a travertine floor. We put that through this area and in the entry. Again, I picked that up from one of my stone wholesalers. He had a batch that was pretty much within a square metre or two of what I needed. It was a batch that he couldn't match the colour with anymore. So often with stone, you cannot match new dye lots, new batches that come through. So they'll have old batches with remnants. And I picked that up for $35 a square metre, and it was a 400 by 400 travertine tile. So I didn't pay a lot for it. I paid a little more for the laying, but one of my tilers lays stone for not much more than normal tiles. So that one. This again is just renovating an existing space, or renovating. This isn't quite renovating an existing space. This was an old location of the kitchen. It was actually to one side. We relocated it, and we had this space, and then we added on space to this side, which you can't see, it's on the front here. This was an extension. So this one here was another kitchen. Again, using decorative lighting. You can see a lot of the design elements I'm talking about, lighting, detail. If you've got the budget for stone, marble, these are all marble. You probably noticed I have a thing for Carrara marble. Not Carrara, this is actually Calcutta and Statuario. They're two different types of marble, look very similar. They're not cheap though, they're pretty expensive. So unless you've got an extensive budget, probably leave them unless you can go to a demo yard. They're often old buildings in capital cities particularly, used to be clad in this material in the 50s and 60s. You can often go to a salvage yard and pick up panels of those, and if you're creative, you might be able to reuse them. Next, bathroom. That's probably the next most important room inside a house. Again, same as the kitchen. If it's outdated, gut it and renovate all of it. Particular thing is redesigning a bad pokey layout. I've seen so many houses that have got, even new houses. If you go to buy a house or you're getting one built, look at the layout. So many bathrooms do not work, and so many bathrooms, you open a door to get in there and you hit something. You open a shower screen and you can't open it completely. You go to a basin and something else is in the way. If the space is really badly designed, relocate stuff. Basically, everybody keeps saying, one thing I've heard over and over again is don't relocate your plumbing. Now, I'm actually going to contradict that, because often when you're renovating a bathroom and you have to replace the floor tiles, 9 out of 10 times you won't be tiling over existing, because often if they're that bad, they're drummy and they need to come up anyway. Once you pull up tiles, the screed has to come with it. Once you've got the screed up, you've got sand. Now, it doesn't cost that much to relocate your plumbing once you've already got sand there. And if you're going to be cutting up your slab to move things around that don't work, half the time if it's an old place, you're going to have to update the plumbing. It doesn't work. It's probably got steel pipes that are half corroded. It probably doesn't have the waste that meets current regulations. So a lot of the time you're going to have to change things even if you don't think you are. And once you start trying to fluff around and leave things where they are, you end up spending almost the same amount of money, if not the same amount of money. And believe me, the only reason I know is I've done it. I've tried to leave them there numerous times, and it actually hasn't been cost effective at all. I could have got a much better result by moving them. Funds are tight, spray the tiles. You can get tile paint that's really quite good. Spray your bath as well. Replace the tapware and fixtures. And I said here, if the bath's okay, paint it. Use tile paint, it works quite well, or you can get people in to do it. Again, large format tiles, always look better. Feature wall, don't use strips, they're a bit old fashioned. Try to use, if you're wanting to feature something, use a whole wall. Even if it's a small wall within the shower, do the whole wall. It does look a lot more modern, it looks a lot more upmarket. If you're basically on a budget, which you probably will be, instead of using don't use a feature tile, because feature tiles, what they do in the tile shops, these lovely mosaics that you see, they charge you by the sheet. They do not charge you by the square metre. And it looks lovely. You see a piece of tile and you think, oh, that's $15. You multiply it out and you're suddenly paying $200 a square metre for this feature tile. Use your floor tile, and use your floor tile on the wall as a feature. It's the same price as your floor tile. You can pick a tile for $15, $20 a metre and use it as a feature tile, and it looks just as good. If you've got a really nice tiler who's accommodating, get them to cut it into a smaller size. Get them to cut them into, like, let's say you've got 6 by 300 tile. Get them to cut them into 300 strips, and you suddenly have 300 strips of exactly the same as your floor tile, which it is. Pay them a couple of hours more to cut it with the tile cutter and lay it. It's worth it. It's still a hell of a lot cheaper than feature tiles. Ooh, sorry. Use a darker floor tile. I believe it always looks better. The only time a lighter tile works better is if it's stone or stone look, and again you're going to bring it up the wall and do a detail with it. Use a concealed cistern. Again, this is something that isn't that cost effective always, so you have to, it's very budget oriented, but if you've got a place that's sort of a mid to upper budget, concealed cistern and a back to wall pan, which is a toilet pan that just sits straight on the wall, on the floor, and it goes against the wall. Wall hung pans cost a lot more. So this is a sort of a in-between option. It's an option that a lot of people don't think of. Like they go to the catalogue, they go to Caroma, they see the, I think it's called wall, something, one of those wall ones that actually, the slimline ones that go in the wall, they come with the toilet, they come with the steel frame that goes inside the wall, and they come with a pan that sits off the wall. $1,500 to $2,000 later, you've just bought yourself a toilet and cistern. There is a cheaper option. The cheaper option is that you buy a pan, that's about $250, you can pick them up quite easily, and it sits on the floor, and it goes hard up against a wall or hard up against a cabinet. And then Caroma do, I think they call it an in-cabinet cistern, and it can go inside the cabinet. It can only go inside a wall that's quite deep. It's not a really thin one, it's a normal, it's sort of quite thin but not thin enough for a wall. But if you continue your cabinet across, and I'll just show you here what I mean. Let's see. Yeah, not quite. Okay, this is the closest picture I have to it. See how this has a box? That's actually marble. Now just imagine that was this vanity cabinet. Okay, this is a better example. This vanity cabinet here, it's got a top cabinet. See that hole, that little button there? That has one of these down here in front of that cabinet that you can't see. That's called a back to wall pan. That's a toilet pan that sits on the floor and pushes against either a wall or a cupboard. Here it just had a flat panel with an access section above it. So this one here had a toilet that was accessed if it needed to be accessed. There's a built-in robe behind. So there's an actual access panel on the built-in robe. This one here has a panel in the cabinet underneath here that you can't really see. I couldn't find a photo showing it. Obviously the photographer didn't want to take a picture of the toilet. And that panel comes out and you service the toilet. So it's like a normal toilet. And that little cistern that sat in there was about $250. So again, it's not budget, because you're not going to pick up a toilet and pan for $199 like you can. But if you've got an in-between budget and you want to make impact, the other thing a back-to-wall pan and or a concealed cistern does is it makes a room look much, much, much bigger. Like that is a tiny, tiny, tiny bathroom. This whole bathroom was a total of about 1,800 wide, as was this one. Well, you can see it's actually deceptive. We had to use a semi-recessed basin and cabinet here, and I could only pick one of about 3 basins because I needed the cabinet to be very, very narrow. This whole room is about 1,650 wide, so it's not big at all. Therefore, I still put a featured tile. It was longish, it was about 3 metres long, and it was very narrow. So the feature wall brought the end in and created interest. We put a frameless shower screen because we didn't have the room. We put a narrow cabinet, and I put a back-to-wall pan against the cupboard here. It didn't get in the way. There was plenty of access to get past. And also that cabinet where that toilet went, I actually set it in another 50, 60, maybe 100 mil so that the cistern itself didn't come out too far. So here we go. Toilet, frameless shower screen panel. If you don't have the budget for a full frameless shower screen, do 2 things. Either if the space permits, use a flat panel, just a frameless panel, and leave the opening for the shower. But that's subject to the size of your shower, the location of your shower, and the way it's configured. Other ways, I haven't put it here, but use a semi-frameless shower screen. The shower screens that just have a chrome trim at the top and bottom, only ever use, again, stainless steel silver. Use chrome trimming for all your bathroom detailing. Use chrome trimming or stainless trimming or silver trimming on your shower screen, handles, basically even toilet buttons if you're going to be using the ones that I was saying. And on your mirror, if you've got a budget, either frameless, preferably frameless, and get them to fix it straight to the wall, or if you really need to have a frame for some reason, use a very, very small silver frame. And very large mirrors, actually. Sorry, I just saw that bit. They create an illusion of larger space. Again, depending on your budget and the style of the house. I often use very decorative mirrors in spaces. Either I use very large frameless mirrors if it's modern, or I use very decorative mirrors if it's more traditional. Example of that is this one. That whole wall was all mirror. So that room, when you walked in, it looked far, far bigger than what it was, because on the opposite wall, you can see the reflection here. It's all white tiles. The rest of the bathroom was all white, and I used Carrara marble on the floor. So that created an illusion of space. This one here, mirror, decorative mirror, mirror behind here as well. It's a bit hard to see. Mirror again. This was a budget job. We just used Bunnings mirror. Went down and bought for $4.50 or $3.99. I bought a Bunnings mirror and we fixed it directly to the wall. This is a budget job. This is where we've used the floor tile up onto the hob and up on the feature wall behind it. So basically that's an example of what I was talking about. Here's another. Again, we've just used a cost-effective Bunnings bathroom. That tap was about $50. Tapware $50. Tiles were about, I think, $18 a square metre. Wall tiles were about $15. That cabinet was from Bunnings. It was about $3.99, Bunnings or somewhere else. So that's a very, very cost-effective bathroom. This one here is more upmarket. Again, it's got a back-to-wall pan, concealed cistern, and that would be access. That one's access from the top. Cabinet, again, if your budget permits, floating cabinets. You've probably noticed there's a few floating cabinets. I use them if the budget permits. They create space. And mirror, again, nice big mirror for the space. That actually was the bathroom before. You've probably noticed before and after. It was completely reconfigured. Upgrade the front facade. First impressions really do count, whether you're going to sell or whether you're renting. And you've only got one chance to impress people. People buy on feelings, so you have to make it look good. You have to make it feel good. Basically, paint the exterior in neutral colours, usually. You can paint a colour. You saw the other one. I have used blue-grey. It's more grey than blue. The shade of it's important, and also don't be too boring. But at the same time, there's some colours that you want to stick away from, dark and sombre or really pooey khaki colours. When you see them, they can look good if you pick exactly the right shade. But you really do need a professional colour consultant or you've seen it on another house and you like it, and go in and knock on the door and ask them what it is, because I've seen so many that look either like a haunted house because they're so dark and sombre, or they just look awful. They look like something's gone terribly wrong. Also, when you're painting externally, keep it clean. If you're going to be more conservative, always contrast, easy ways to contrast with white or a lighter colour. And that creates, if you're going to go for a darker wall colour, go for really crisp, clean detail, like on your timber work. And again, it depends on the style of the house. Landscape the front well. Try and create a pathway through a nice garden that leads people to the front door. It's good to be able to lead them there. Improve your front fence. If it's really bad, remove it. Don't have one. There's nothing worse than having a really unattractive front fence or one that's broken. Repair things. Anything that's damaged, repair it. If the brickwork's really not very nice at all and it's very dated, render it and paint it. Even if you don't have the budget to paint the whole house, paint the front facade and render the front facade and return it enough if it's really visible. Like if you can see the whole side of the house from the front, you're going to have to render that part too. And then add on a veranda, like I said before, and front doors. They make a big difference. If it's a really ugly front door, replace it and paint it in a strong neutral colour. If it's a very, very modern home, I have painted front doors red, but it has to be a specific, very contemporary style, because there's a lot of people that probably don't like red front doors. This one here is a before shot. It's a reno we did a while ago. Sorry. That's the front of the house when we started. It was pretty run down. The gardens were terribly, terribly, terribly overgrown, and that was the end result. This is an upmarket extension renovation, so obviously we've spent a lot of money on it, but at the same time, there was a massive, massive change to this property just by cleaning it up, pulling stuff out, and painting it. This house here had red brickwork, had limestone. We had to fix up all the limestone. It was painted over, as you can see, so we had it all stripped back and repointed. The brickwork, we didn't have to have it all tuck pointed, we had to have it repaired. We painted the walls, you can't really see it that well, there you can, neutral colour, and I detailed it in a charcoal. And then I also put in a mid-tanny, sort of a neutral browny grey colour as a detail that complemented it. So it created enough interest that it wasn't boring. Outdoor entertaining areas. That's another thing that you really should look at always doing if you can. Extend your interior space with a connected al fresco area. If you don't have the budget to cover it, even do a deck. Even do a little deck, a little back area that people can sit down in. You don't, if the money's not there, just put something outside so that people can walk out, and you can also style it then. You can put some outdoor chairs and a little table and make it look like they've got a lifestyle. You know, people want to have a lifestyle. And also when you're doing this, match it with this with the style of the house. Don't make it too detached. Make it as seamless as you can afford. Try to make the floor material flow from inside and out. So if your inside's tiled, again, timber decking outside, even if it's tiled inside, is not bad. It's very attractive anyway. But if you have an internal timber, rather than tiling a back veranda, even if it's already concrete, if you can possibly put timber decking on, again, it's subject to your height. Sometimes you can't. But if you can, try to run it inside out. It makes the internal space look much, much bigger because you've got a similar floor finish. Basically, you know, when you've got an outdoor area, try to create a whole outdoor living space, you know, barbecue, sink, cabinets. You can pick a lot of these up now from a lot of the retailers. They're not expensive. You can even pick them up from, you know, Grays Online sells them and they're not a lot. And a lot of the eBay, heaps of places sell them and they're pretty cheap. I mean, I don't know how long they'll last, but probably for sales purposes, if you're selling, they'd be fine. If you're renting, I don't know how durable they would be. And also the additional square meterage adds value to the property. This one, similar to the last one. Again, this isn't covered all of it. It's partially covered and partially open. You know, that creates a lifestyle. That creates, again, it's pretty upmarket, but you can use ideas from upmarket developments and upmarket, you know, landscapers and upmarket places. You can use elements that might not necessarily cost a lot more. That one there. Inside and out, it's timber inside, timber outside, it flows through. And then that goes down and it all connects through. That's the kitchen and then the living room over there. And there's lots of glass, bifold doors, so that they all open through. Landscaping. If your garden's messy, tidy it up, clean it up, get it all trimmed and as clipped and as clean and tidy as you possibly can. Good landscaping, it does frame a home. It really gives a good first impression as well, particularly out the front, and also out the back it creates a lifestyle. You know, if you've got, lawns are always a cost-effective option to make something really lush, clean, and it looks well kept if a lawn's well maintained. Also, when you're landscaping, look at professionals. Generally speaking, they mass plant. Even look at, local council gardens because they mass plant. Mass planting, it looks professional, it looks clean, it looks crisp. Feature pots, planters and raised beds. Adding something that adds interest will make a huge difference. This particular one, there's a lot of interest going on here. You know, they've stepped up that. They've got feature lighting. I mean, I'm not saying you can afford all of that. They've got feature bits here. And there's also, you can't see it, but the other part of this garden has got raised garden beds. So the garden beds, are at different levels. So if you can afford it and if you can do it yourself, do it. It makes a huge difference. You know, if you've got the budget and the time, create hedges and then also mulch your gardens. You know, fresh mulch always looks really clean and it looks professional. Fix pavings, fences, cut and trim, all the plants you're keeping. So really the basics. This one here, this was that budget job that you saw earlier on from the front. This one here, we created a deck and we retained this garden bed. This was lower and we retained this part here. This backyard was here. It was like a dog's breakfast. It was an absolute, you couldn't even walk through it. It was an absolute mess. So that was just bobcatted and completely cleared. And then this decking was added on. We added on the bifolds, we added on the French doors, and it was 2 levels. We've stepped it at 2 levels to create more interest. And we've pretty much just added lawn. that tree was there, and we've added perimeter shrubs. And we didn't have a lot of money, so we just used sleepers. We used pine sleepers as a retaining, and they've just been pegged in place. And then that's just some basic timber decking that was built, and that's pretty much it. And that doesn't have a pergola because we didn't have the money to put one on. We didn't have the money for covering outside. So, we left something for the new owners. Good decorating. This is where what you like doesn't really matter. You've got to look at the market that you're selling to, and you've got to look at ideas of particularly what designers, decorators, and what good project home builders, how they're displaying their product, because they have looked at the market and they work for the market, so they know what people like. Use mirrors. Drew mentioned it yesterday. Absolutely best thing since sliced bread. Mirrors are the best interior decorating thing you could possibly come across. I've got a warehouse full of about 6 or 8, 9 mirrors that I collected for staging, and I've got them scattered through my house as well. They can be decorative, they reflect light, they create space, they do lots of things, and they can look very luxurious as well. Also, when you're picking materials, look at magazines at the internet and try to find luxurious finishes that are cheaper. You can find inexpensive materials that mimic luxurious and expensive features, and use them selectively in areas where they're going to have impact. Use a costly product as a feature in small quantity. So if you want to use a more expensive material such as stone in a kitchen, you don't have the budget to do the whole kitchen, just do it on an island bench and then do the rest of the kitchen in laminate. Nobody's going to look at the rest of the kitchen, they're only going to look at the island bench. And then don't pay retail. Your budget when you're renovating, as I said at the very beginning, is absolutely everything. You've got to, if you're going to go over on one thing, you have to be conscious as you're budgeting, as you're working through it, that you're going to have to cut back somewhere else. So if you say, okay, I can't do without that tile, I want that tile, I'm going to spend that extra $1,000, it's got to come off somewhere else. Because at the end of the day, your market's only going to pay what it's worth. So if you spend too much somewhere, it has to come off somewhere else. Buy direct, buy through the internet, buy second hand. I mean, a couple of those houses I've showed you before, or I'll show you soon, I actually used a second hand lounge that I bought through Gumtree. I bought a second hand leather lounge that I staged half the furniture with second hand furniture, and I sold a house for $3.1 million. And the owners bought some of the furniture, and I made about a 2,000% profit on it. So, I cleaned it up. It was a bit grotty. And I went hunting, and I went out with my partner's ute to pick it up, and my son, and but I paid $400 or $500 for a lounge that I knew brand new was worth about $4,500 to $5,000. So you don't have to buy stuff brand new. With plumbing, be careful. I bought some stuff through auction, and half of the stuff didn't work. So that's the only thing that I can say. You're probably safer to buy from Bunnings and buy a cheap, nice-looking tap, because if it breaks, they'll replace it. Don't be boring and match everything. A lot of people who are uncomfortable with decorating tend to match, and it all looks very plain and very boring. Add different colours. I don't mean colours as in colour, I mean colour as in depth of colour, and also use colour in detail, like, furniture, accessories, artwork, single armchairs, all that sort of stuff that can be removed. And when you're doing your house, create a cohesive style that complements the style of the house. If you've got a traditional house, if you do it slick and super modern inside, you've got to be very careful doing that because it can jar. As a professional, I have done it and it's worked, but I've had to be very, very careful about what I've done in there and how minimal it was. And generally that won't appeal to the market because it's not a comfortable style. So really, as an investor, as a property developer, you need to really target the mass market, not the individual. This is another one using decorating styles. Here, an old house. It's a bit hard to tell, these photos aren't crash hot. Mixture of modern and old, modern coffee table. This actually flowed quite well, very modern artwork, modern coffee table with a traditional Persian rug, modern lounge, modern table and chairs, modern kitchen, but all the architectural features of this house were intact. They were restored and they were added on. High ceilings, large cornices, all the timber work, timber doors, everything else. So it's all in keeping. Again, this is a mixture of old and modern. This was a tiny, tiny front entrance. It was about 1.6 metres by about 2.1, and I put a massive, massive mirror in the front entry. You can see the reflection in the front door, and that created a space that looked far bigger than what it actually was. This is a modern room. This was just a fresh, modern, everyday interior that we did for a client, and you walked in and out. Big, big openings, so the interior and the exterior in the garden became all one. A very simplistic version of what Drew was mentioning yesterday. This is a cheap, simple, straightforward gyprock version. And using colour, like this whole room is actually neutral. The walls are off-white, ceiling's white, floors are timber. That's about it. All the windows are aluminium, white. So there's not much to it. The only thing that's added interest here is a few orange chairs, colour in the scatter cushion. The rug's got a black and white pattern through it. And the rest of it is pretty straightforward. And a little very, very simple pendant over the dining table. This is a bit hard to see, but this was a before and after. That was before, and that was after. So that was a huge... We actually didn't extend that part. That was the original part of the house. This was the actual house that I showed you the exterior of before. So, from before to after, there is a huge difference. And that's all decorating. Some of it's design, like the fireplace was picked up from a demo, and that was stripped. The piece of marble was, again, an offcut from the kitchen, because that was the kitchen with the marble kitchen. It was an offcut. I got the stone cutter to trim it, and it was slid underneath and put in place before the fireplace was put in. And the rest of it... this was the lounge that I bought that one for $200 and the other one for $200, and I bought my rug for about $250, and I think I sold the lot of those, the 3 of those, to the new owners who loved it for about $2,500. Well, if I sold it too cheaply, they would have thought it was rubbish. So yeah, and staging, decorating. This is all decorated. There's lots and lots of ornaments. There's an ornament there, there's a rug, there's a coffee table, there's there's flowers, print, statue, pedestal, ornaments on the fireplace. There's a clock and some candelabras. And then this as well, even the corridor's decorated. There's rugs. Had a big, long, very, very, very long, boring corridor. So there's artwork to break it up. There's mirrors. And this little corner was a bit dead. So it's got a little thing with some, again, with just a vase and some artificial flowers and a little ornament above it. So that's all staging. That's basically staging. The structure's decorated and the interior's staged. Styling, staging, what we've been talking about. Creating a wow factor. People buy an emotion. So the better you can make it look, the quicker and easier it's going to sell and the more you're going to get for it. Don't really... One thing I can say, if you can avoid it at all costs, don't ever sell an empty house. Pay somebody to come in and stage it. You'll create an environment that people can see they can live in. And then, get it professionally staged. If you don't know how to do this yourself, which most people don't, it is something that, I've worked for years to learn how to do this. And I've employed decorators and designers who work for me who can't do it well. So it's something that, you have to know how to do it, and you also have to be talented, not talented, but just know how to do it as well as learn how to do it. Accessories, they make a huge difference. Until I put accessories in any of the houses that I've done over the years, they still look pretty plain. The artwork on the walls makes a massive, massive, massive difference. You can't underestimate how much difference that makes. Mirrors, rugs, all your coffee tables, your side tables, and vases, ornaments, artificial and real flower arrangements, all of that sort of stuff. I've got so many decorative coloured vases, and you cluster them together. You put them in certain manner to make them look good. And furniture, that makes a big difference as well. You need the right design for the interior styling you're wanting to create. You also need the right colour, and you need to place it, and you need to correctly size it. The amount of times I see the wrong size furniture in rooms is absolutely amazing. It just doesn't fit, and it makes the room either look empty or makes it look too cluttered. It makes it actually look smaller than what it would be, or it makes it look like it's just not comfortable to be in. As I said previously, add colour with furnishings, artwork and accessories rather than on your fixed structure. And if you're holding, rent it out fully furnished or equipped as executive accommodation. I mean, you've probably all heard this, but it does make a huge difference to the rent, and often the cost of furnishing and equipping it is not much in comparison to the extra return you'll get. Another thing is, hang artwork at the right height and size for the wall. The amount of houses I go into and artwork is too high. It has to be hung at eye level of a shorter person, that being me. So a shorter person, obviously if it's a massive painting, you don't want to have to sit it on the floor to be eye level. But a normal size, an average size painting should be hung at the eye level of a shorter person. That being a person of about 55 to 160 centimetres tall, not somebody that's 2 metres high. And if you go into a gallery, you'll actually see an art gallery that the artwork's never hung up there. The artwork's hung at eye level. And the other thing is, simple design 101, pick your pictures that reflect the shape of your wall. And if your picture doesn't reflect the shape of your wall, place more than one of them on there. So where you see, if you've got a rectangular wall, don't put a portrait picture on there. It's going to look silly. Put a landscape picture. If you don't have a landscape picture, put 2 or 3 in sequence to create that landscape shape. So actually reflect the shape of the wall with the artwork. And then fresh flowers for home opens. I always use fresh flowers. They make a big difference. They look good. And, put them in. I put them in the kitchen. I put them through the entry if it allows. I put them in the bathrooms. I put them in the laundries. All different places. You can put them anywhere if it needs it. There's some more styling of different interiors. Again, flowers. Lots and lots of flowers on here anyway. And lots of detail. Lots of bits and pieces. Flowers, ornaments there, ornaments everywhere. Scatter cushions, lamps, more cushions there. They're only decorative. All that stuff's decorative. That stuff's decorative. There's a lot of decorative elements. The lights, that lamp, all of that stuff. That makes a big difference. This was a before and after. This is just a really simple, that was that cheapy little job, that reno that we spent total of about 65 or 70,000 on the whole thing, and we basically gutted the whole house. We changed windows, we reconfigured, relocated kitchens, we put in a new ensuite, we partially reconfigured all the bathroom as well and semi-relocated it. And that's the bedroom before. No, hang on. That's the bedroom before and that's after. That's before and that's after. And that's all, the only thing out of these is we picked up some second-hand windows and we basically replaced the windows. Short of that, they got picked up through Gumtree for a very good price. We put the shears, I think they came from Spotlight, on some stainless steel rods that probably came from Spotlight or IKEA. The beds, we used some existing furniture that we had. So, the furniture's not fantastic, but it looks quite nice. It certainly is a vast improvement from there. And here, we had some furniture that we picked up that was very, very cheap. I think that was one of those fantastic furniture things, fantastic furniture lamps, little bit of artwork. The artwork's not as big as I would have liked it, but we were on a budget and that's all we had. And some chandeliers, we put some chandeliers to pretty it up. They were picked up out of eBay for about $99. So next one, know when to get help. Basically, if you don't know how to do it and you think it's out of your comfort zone, paying a professional in the end will actually save you time and money. And it will definitely give you a better result and give you a better return at the end of it. Look for projects that you like. When you're wanting to find a professional and you're wanting to get help, look for projects you like that they've done, because that'll give you a good indication of what their style is. Because no matter what a designer, architect, decorator tells you, they do have a certain type of style, and you'll find that repeated through certain projects. They definitely design for the client, but they'll have a particular feel to what they do. And if your budget's limited, ask them for ideas and just you do all the legwork, because a lot of their time is spent running around doing the legwork. So if you go to see them, get a consultant, get them in and out and try to cut the time down, you'll cut the cost down as well. Educate yourself. If you're so inclined and you like doing this and you think you'd like to do it and you're interested in it, educate yourself. Do some decorating courses, some renovation courses. And if you're not very creative and you really don't like doing it, admit that to yourself and just pay somebody else, because often people try to do it and they try to want to do it and they're really not very good at doing it, and the result doesn't end up being that good. Summary. I mean, what I've discussed today applies to both new and old. You know, renos as well as new developments, new properties. You know, everything mentioned that I've spoken about is really subject to your budget, your time, and your individual circumstances. They'll help you, they'll give you a better understanding and, you know, give you more control over your project. So even if you're discussing it with other people, you have, you know, with a professional, you should have an understanding of what they're talking about. And then, you know, good design, really, honestly, I can't say it more, it doesn't cost more. I've seen expensive things placed that really don't look good and aren't good money, good spent money. And, you know, basically everybody can do it, so get moving and give it a go. And if you need any help, I mean, we can help. We work all over Australia, and, you know, a lot of the stuff you don't actually have to go on site. With the internet, with photography, with, you know, all the phones, it's not that hard to do stuff elsewhere. And yeah, that's basically it.
Very good. Give Helena a round of applause. Huge amount of information there. My goodness.
A million miles an hour. So I hope it wasn't too boring for everyone.
Absolutely not. Huge, as I said, there's a huge amount there that was very, very valuable information that I saw people taking lots and lots of notes.
It wasn't in the book, was it? Because I did it too late. My fault. They only gave me a short notice.
But anyway, as I say, there's lots of design concepts you can kind of pull there. You will end up renovating. You will end up selling properties. You will end up having to stage, having to think about colours and design and all of that kind of stuff. So once again,
thank you. No problem.
Thank Helena very, very much.
Okay. And if anybody wants the presentation, if anybody wants a copy of the presentation, how do we go about putting it on the Platinum, or should I just send it out? It's a large file, that's the only thing, but I could put it on Dropbox.
It's very large file.
It's a huge file because of all the images. It's a very, very large file.
Yeah.
That was one of the
Let's
issues.
talk about that and I'll talk about it tomorrow.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. What have I got to do now? Oh, an iPad. Ah. Who wants the iPad? Who reckons they got the flow going on? All right, well, I better do all my administration first. First of all, what time are we coming back in the morning? 8:30. All right, don't be late. Ready to give an iPad away, Ian? Yes? All right. Tomorrow afternoon, of course, it is the computer. I'll try and be really, really on time tomorrow. Maybe even a little bit early if we can. We might squeeze afternoon tea because, well, that person jumped. What did we do there? I put 3 on that, but put them all back in. Because I hear there's a rugby match on or something. Is that the story? Hey? Here we go. Wasn't it a Greg who won the last one? He didn't win it again. No. All right. It's a Greg. Who reckons it's them? Now look, if you're not in the room, goes on the floor. You're not Greg Donovan. Greg Gunning. Are they there? There you are. They're very good. Now remember, real estate only.
Yes.
Yes.
Always.
You got to get on all of those techie appy things that Yvette was talking about.
Absolutely.
And the first one you've got to download is I Love Real Estate. No, it's not called that. What's it called? 7 Daily Rituals. 7 Daily Rituals.
Thank you.
All right. Give a round of applause. Has it been a good day? It's been a great day. I've got lots more prizes to give away tomorrow. 8:30 start in the morning. I don't want anybody late because we've got the guru economist coming. Everybody can leave except the platinums. So you lot can sit down. Good night, everybody. I shall see you all tomorrow.